Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and here is a video for practical performing musicians having to face the challenge of a piece of music that contains changing time signatures. A lot of people are quite happy reading music where the whole piece is in 4/4 time or 3/4 time or something. But what about a piece where the time signature keeps changing? And how do we make sure we've got the right rhythm and that one bar relates to another bar properly? So here's an example of something that I've just written that does exactly that. So first of all, let me just play it and then we'll talk about, well, what's the best way of reading this and calculating the rhythm? Here it comes. Okay, now how do I go about this? First of all, we need to make sure we understand what the time signature is actually telling us. So in very simple terms, the upper number is telling us how many of something we've got in the bar or the measure. The lower number is telling us, well, what are we actually counting? So if we're looking at these time signatures, we start in 4/4. So the 4 at the top is saying there are 4 somethings in each bar or each measure. The lower number 4 is telling us that those somethings are quarter notes or crotchets. Okay, so 4/4 means that there are 4 crotchet beats in the bar or 4 quarter note beats in the bar or the measure. And I've purposely written this first bar so that that is absolutely obvious from the music, because that's exactly what we've got. We've got 4 crotchets or 4 quarter notes, haven't we? And of course, we're returning to this quite a few times during the course of the piece. So we're back again in 4/4. And again, you can see directly 4 quarter notes or 4 crotchets there. The next bar, the next measure, is still in 4/4. Now this time I haven't got 4 quarter notes or 4 crotchets, but I've got a rhythm that fits that quite comfortably, because there's the first crotchet, there's the second crotchet, and then we've got 2 crotchets in that note, haven't we? So we know that we're going to get 4 beats to fit into that rhythm very comfortably. And then of course 4/4 makes a return down here. So this is a piece that's not untypical, where you have a time signature that keeps kind of coming back. So you have a kind of anchor point time signature sometimes. Some pieces are just on the move all the time, but sometimes you have a sort of anchor point time signature with other little fluctuations. Well, if we look at 2/4 next, because we've got some corners of this piece in 2/4, well, that's the same thing, isn't it? Except this time, instead of having 4 beats in the bar or the measure, we've only got 2. But the 4 is still saying quarter note beats or crotchet beats. But you look at this bar, you can see them spelled out. I've purposely just done it with 2 crotchets or 2 quarter notes, so you can see those 2 beats. And here's another example of exactly the same thing. So nothing complicated about that. The last bar, the last measure, is another 2/4, but this time I've only got 1 note that takes up both of those beats. Okay, what else have we got going on? Well, we've got this thing in the second bar, the second measure, 3/8. So let's think about what the 2 numbers are telling us. The 3 at the top is telling us there are 3 somethings in this bar or this measure. What are the somethings? That's what the lower number is telling us. And if we see 8, we know we're dealing with 8th notes. So if it's 4, it's quarter notes. If it's 8, it's 8th notes. But if you're in the UK system, you'll be thinking this is telling us about quavers. So in 3/8, there are 3 quavers in the bar, or a rhythm that's equivalent to that, or 3 8th notes. And again, I'm trying to spell this out in this video by giving a rhythm that is exactly that. There's nothing more complicated. I could have written a different kind of rhythm that adds up to those 3 quavers or those 3 8th notes, but I'm just trying to make it as clear as I can how this actually works. So there's a 3/8 bar or a 3/8 measure, and there's another one that crops up near the end there. And then just to make life a bit more exciting, we've got this bar, this measure here, that's in 5/8. Okay, now when we've got 2, 3 and 4 at the top, that's what we call simple time. When we have 6, 9 or 12 at the top, that's called compound time. And those are all things that we call regular time signatures. They're the most likely things to be used. If you see any other number at the top that's not 2, 3, 4 or 6, 9, 12, it's an irregular time signature. So here we've got 5. So we've got one measure, one bar in this piece that's got an irregular time signature. But no need to panic, because what does it mean? 5 tells us there are 5 somethings in each bar or each measure. The 8 says these are eighth notes or quavers. Have a look at this bar. What do we see? Oh, 5 eighth notes or 5 quavers. So that's what it says on the tin with the time signature. Now, there's a little nicety going on in this bar that when you have a 5/8 time signature, it's often organized as 2 quavers or 2 eighth notes followed by 3 quavers or 3 eighth notes. Sometimes it's done the other way around, so it's 3 followed by 2. So you can see in this case, it's 2 followed by 3, but it could easily have been something else. Why do we need to know that? It's just possible, depending on the speed of this, if you were playing this in an orchestra, for example, and someone was conducting it, it's just possible that they would conduct this 5/8 bar in 2 beats. So they'd give you 1 beat there and 1 beat there. So effectively the first beat would be that and the second beat would be that. So it's just an irregular time signature. But in terms of counting it, you can just think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and give yourself 5 equal notes. This is probably the most dangerous bar in the whole piece. What some people will do is make a mistake in reading this, because they'll play 2 quavers there that match up very nicely with a crotchet here, and then they'll play these notes as a triplet. Da, ta, 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 tum. Now that is not a bar of 5/8. 5/8 is bum, 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 bum. Slightly different. So you've got to be careful you don't misread a rhythm like that in 5/8. You've also got to be careful you don't do something similar with something like that in 3/8. And I'm now going to talk about how we make sure that when we have shifting time signatures like this, we don't make rhythmic mistakes by, for example, turning groups of 3/8 notes or 3 quavers into triplets, a very common mistake that people bump into without even realizing it. Okay, now one way we can look at this, if we're trying to read it and get to grips with this, say we've got to learn this piece of music, whichever instrument you're playing or whether you're singing or whatever, well, the thing is to say, what have we got in common across this whole piece? Because we've said, haven't we, that some of these time signatures have got 4 at the bottom, some have got 8 at the bottom. Well, why don't we look for the biggest number? You'll see why in a minute. So the biggest number at the bottom is 8. Okay, well, let's use that for a moment and think what happens if we count this whole thing in quavers or in eighth notes? Because in this 3/8 bar, we've got quaver, 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 or eighth note, eighth note, eighth note. But for each of these in 4/4, we've got 2 of these, haven't we? So 2 quavers or 2 eighth notes gives us 1 quarter note or 1 crotchet. Okay, so what I can do is to count my way through the first bar, the first measure, by going 1 and then I can go 2 and, then I can go 3 and then I can go 4 and. Now effectively that means that I am counting each of the quavers, because 1, 2, 3, 4 are the 4 beats of the bar, but the ands between those beats are giving me the quavers or the eighth notes in between. So I can count the first bar, the first measure, by going 1, 2, 3, 4. But bear with me and consider this possibility. Count it like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, why would I want to do that? You wouldn't want to play it in a concert thinking all that, that's a bit mad. But as a way of reading it and learning the piece, think about 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because you're now counting out those quavers, which means when you come to this 3/8 bar, you've still got to keep quaver equals quaver. So this is the whole art, that you're going to try and read this like this. Quaver equals quaver, or eighth note equals eighth note. So if I now consider, how would I stick that 3/8 bar on the back of that 4/4 bar? I can do it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Okay, do you see what I've done there? Because we've changed to 8, we're now counting quavers, aren't we? But in a way, 4/4 is like 8/8. There are 8 quavers or 8 eighth notes in a 4/4 bar, aren't there? But we're only looking for 4 beats. That's why I'm counting and. I'm not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because I'm trying to keep the beats 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm putting the ands in so I know what the quavers are going to be when I come to the next bar. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 means that I can be sure that I've got the rhythm right, because we're dealing with this. Okay, so quaver equals quaver, or eighth note equals eighth note. So those first 2 bars again, first 2 measures, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Now, if you keep that going, when you come to this bar, the next one, well, what are we going to do here? We're going to go 1 and 2 and. Okay, well, we've only got 2 beats this time, but we're still counting 1 and 2 and. So we're keeping this quavers going, because the quavers, or the eighth notes, are the common thing that links all of these time signatures, even when we come to this slightly more awkward 5/8 thing, because when we come to the 5/8 bar, we're simply going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so whenever you have a bar with 8 at the bottom, well, just count the quavers, count the eighth notes. And so therefore it is exactly what it says on the tin. That says count 3 eighth notes, 3 quavers. This says count 5 eighth notes, 5 quavers. So in this bar, I count 1, 2, 3. In this bar, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then all the other bars where you've got 4 at the bottom, you just think, well, if I put those ands in between each beat, then I'm keeping these quavers, these eighth notes, absolutely constant throughout the whole piece. And that's going to nail you down so you play the right rhythm, and you're not tempted to change the speed as you shift between the time signatures, and you're not tempted to kind of play some of these quavers or eighth notes as triplets or something when you're in 3/8, or in a group of 3 when you're in 5/8. So now this is going to sound a bit of a kind of manic exercise, and let me emphasize, don't perform the piece like this. Just use this as a way of making sure you're very happy reading a piece with shifting time signatures. So this should be really helpful to people who are learning pieces that look like this, and it should be very helpful to people who are having to sight read pieces with these changing time signatures, where frequently people make mistakes with those shifting time signatures. So find the common unit that's going to get you through the whole piece. Now I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to count everything as I've suggested, and hopefully it will make sense. Okay, so here goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and... Okay, this sounds crazy, doesn't it, doing it like that? But do you see what you're doing? you're making sure that the rhythm is precisely right, because quaver equals quaver, or eighth note equals eighth note. Now, as you start to get more familiar with that, you won't have to kind of do all this counting of ands, but you'll be able to break that down into something a bit more manageable, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, you might even be able to go a little bit further in terms of counting a bit less, but that would be a safe place to move from our starting place of counting all those individual quavers or eighth notes. So the idea of this video is it's entirely practical as a means of dealing with this changing, shifting time signature situation. So I hope you found that helpful. And if you have found it helpful, you might like to go to our website, www.mmcourses.co.uk, where you can find lots of other stuff that's going to be really useful to you, including a course on rhythm, where I kind of do the A to Z of reading rhythm accurately. That is a real lifeline to many musicians who are never quite confident about the reading of rhythm and doing the kind of thing we've been doing in this video. While you're there, have a look at the other courses, have a look at our Maestros program as well, because that might be something that excites you too. Lots of things to see there. Enjoy.